Good morning and good evening. Duterte powers, let's do the right thing. Let's support our President Duterte and we follow him always. And he's one of the best presidents we have in our country ever. Today I just want to talk about most of it, the protesting, what was going on today on the 1st of May on our country, and about the labor of our people, the workers back home. I mean, I know most of you want to say he's our president, the 30, and then that's his fault and he's not doing his promise and all kind of stuff. So, because he's supposed to sign that already a long time, for the companies to give, the contracts, fixed contracts to people and to give them permanent work, which that I've been talking about this for quite a few years already. Yeah, already a few years I've been talking about this, and this I've been waiting for that for so long. And it's like God hear our prayers, and we have that. Our president, I mean, a lot of people he was protesting, and then burning the flags of our president and his picture and doing so silly, stupid things because he promised and he hasn't done it yet and all that kind of stuff. All I want to say also, this is wrong. I mean, we're going like people doing in US, burning the flags, and the face on, actually not the flag, but they burn photos of our president. And this is really disrespectful in everything, and this is a really shameful thing for us in the Philippines. We should know better, and as a Filipino people, I mean, we shouldn't show that kind of anger and that kind of things to other people around the world, because it's like we're becoming the same as other people, and we are different. As Filipinos, and our country is much different than the other countries, and it's like we're becoming to be you know very angry and doing the same things as they do US, burning flags from US, burning photos from Trumps and everything, and seeing this in our country, in the Philippines, the people doing this today, this is really something really disturbing to me, and that's something I don't like to see, our people and the Filipino people to do that, and burning and photos of our president. You guys have to understand that. You have to see it one thing. He's a president, yes, and he has some kind of power, that's right, but it's not everything for him to rule. He also has to other people to approve. And especially at this time, it's not our president's fault at all. I also had to blame a lot of senators, which they are really assholes, and they really hate our president and despise our president, and even they pretend to like our president. They're really assholes, these senators, which they behind our president back, they're doing something different. So all I can ask for all our people in the Philippines, when we do protesting and things like that, try to understand that, I mean, politics and then being a president and being in charge in a country is not easy to do everything as we want it. We want it now, and you promise this, you promise that. It's so many things our president promised, and he's done most of all of them. And give him time, because he's becoming like nearly 2 years he will be in the office, and he done so much. So being with his employers, and this is one of the best things ever, because every time someone needs to apply for work in the Philippines and to apply for a company, this is so ridiculous, because always I found it so ridiculous. Why? If I want to work, I am the one who has to do the medicals, which medical for us to do in the Philippines, it can cost money. It can cost about 2,000, 2,500, doing medicals, or even 1,500, it's expensive. Plus, you have to buy your own uniforms. The companies, they are the ones supposed to be providing the uniforms for, the employers. But what's happening is and it has been happening for so long, and I do hope this stops. And the companies, they are the ones who's making the money, they are the ones who's taking our time and hard working people to make that company work and to make that company succeed. Is not just the company itself, is the people who that company has working for them. And those bosses and the employers and things like that, management and especially the big bosses should know who makes this company work and who makes money for this company is the people, hard-working people who makes your company go up, and people who gives them 100% of their time, to be on that company working so hard. And then, not even if they are not feeling well, not for them not to be absent, they still go into work even if they don't feel well, because they don't want to mess up the contract of, they have the 6-month contract and they don't want to mess up, and then even people can get sick and then they still have to go to work, like it or not, because if you don't, then it's a big problem. So I hope all the rights now, and this most of our president already signed it, and it's not because he didn't want to sign it. Of course, he said it, and I know when our president says something, he will do it, and he will do everything for our people and our country. But also, he's people behind him which does, and try to be really backstabbers. Well, back home we say plastic, or we say backfighters. Sometimes when I hear, how do you call it? Some people say backfighters. It makes me laugh. But yeah, that's how we use that back home in the Philippines. So being this rally, what a lot of people done, and then a lot of people come from other places like Mindanao and some other things to do this. Some of them they are there not to help the situation, but to make it worse and to make it everything bigger than it's supposed to be. All I like it is the rally goes peacefully, and it goes, okay, yes, you can protest it like our president said it, but as long as it goes peacefully and it's no trouble, no nothing, that's okay. You guys, everybody has their own mouth and free speech now. You guys can talk and you can say anything in our country, and it's okay. But before, it was not like this, was it? So, but apart for this Labor Day in our country, in the Philippines, I'm so happy our president done what the people wanted, and he signed it. Now, I understand he's the president, he's much more than any other senator. And then it's the senators who has to obey him, not the senators controlling our president, because our president controls the senators. The only problem is if some senators is trying to be assholes and he's trying to be really funny towards our president. And I know some of senators doesn't like our president. Why they don't like our president? Because they cannot do what they used to do. And this is the main thing. A lot of senators, they don't like our president. Why? Because they don't have the freedom of stealing. They have to be there in the office, not like before. They can stay home, they can go holiday, they can go whatever, and they still getting paid. Now that is over. And so a lot of senators, they have to work for a little bit of money, which they already take much more than anybody else anyway. But apart from this, companies now, the problem is to impose companies. And we have to follow up the companies to make sure they are giving the contracts to our people, the hard-working Filipino people who's been working in that company for so long, and give them all the rights, and stop them to be paying medicals and for them to be paying their own uniform to work. I also don't, supermarkets and some other places, some girls and some people works in supermarkets, they have to stand up 12 hours a day. This is wrong. I mean, plus you have that kind of code of dressing. You have your uniform and you have a little bit high heel. You have to use that. That's what they tell you to what you have to wear on that kind of companies. This is also not that easy. They should be able to wear any comfortable shoes, which you feel comfortable for the 12 hours work. Some of them, they work 8 hours, some of them work much more hours. But just imagine, even if we do 8 hours standing, and supermarkets in Manila, they are so busy. And all the supermarket, they should give a chair for the cashier to have a seat, like we do everywhere else. Why? Even if she's sitting, it means what? She's not working, she's not doing any work, or she's not doing any job or anything like that. For her to scan in and for her to do things, she can sit. Yeah, and she will stand up if she would like to and all kind of stuff. But at least we have the option for them to stand. So I do hope most of the senators, this is enforced, and companies to pay the right amount of money to, minimal wage. We have to have a minimal wage in our country, in the Philippines, because come on, we're paying 200 something pesos an hour. This is ridiculous. The minimum wage, at least it has to have, in between the 450 to 500 an hour. For most of companies, which is they're making bigger money, like supermarkets, SMs, and everything. Most of the, what can I say, big companies over there, they are taking really the piss of our hard-working people in the Philippines. So this is time to change, the minimum wage of people, and depends what kind of rank, depends what kind of, if you're management, you should be able to earn, a certain amount of money an hour. And then if you are whatever you are, cashier or, stacking shelves or whatever you do, you should be able to have a minimum wage, which will be at least the 450 or to 500 pesos a day, not a day, but an hour. So if you don't want to pay, let's say 500 pesos an hour is a lot, but let's say, we're going into 200 pesos, 300 pesos an hour, 350 pesos an hour. That's what they should get. And because a lot of people in our country is not even getting that. So minimal wages, and I hope our president applies that for every Filipino in our country. Minimal wage companies have to pay is the 350 to 400 pesos an hour, to people. Management also, it has to be a bit higher, so I don't know much of a management, how much you get in an hour over there, but I know laborers, like people who do, cashiers and everything. So some of them is less than 500 pesos an hour, much more less than that. So this is really ridiculous. How can we live? I mean, things is going up, food's going up, everything, and we working like 8 hours a day, really hard for, 250, 300 pesos, not even an hour. Come on, it's not an hour. Some of them a day. And, this is really taking the piss. I know we live there and things is expensive, because I stay home in the Philippines most of the time for quite longer periods. And it's also for me, if I was, hopefully soon I'll go home to live for good, but for you to live home and all that kind of stuff, you have to have an income. You cannot just go over there to the home and then just sit and then you think you're gonna eat. Just like, yes, you might, but day by day to pass through, if you don't have a job, if you don't have an income, it's also a bit hard. So I do hope we keep an eye on these companies to make sure to give the right things to our people. They are entitled every day, every year, 21 days holiday pay. And I hope this is enforced and given to all the employers, who has contracts, to their holiday is paid 21 days a year. They have the right. And then the longer they live over there, if they work every year, they increase 1 day every year. So to reach the 26 days holiday a year. And this, I do hope, this will be enforced for our workers and the people who wants to work in our country, because everyone wants to work. The only problem is to afford to pay for medicals and uniforms and everything is not easy. Some people has to borrow from other people because to apply for companies. Companies That's their responsibility to provide everything, uniforms and forms and all that for the employers they have. They have to be more responsible for the employers they have, and also the health and safety, and looking after our employers really good, and much better they have been doing until now. So I'm happy for our president signing this Labor Day and everything, and I do hope this goes right now. Start from now. Companies cannot fire anyone who has been working there for so long. For now, what I wanted to say is that's good news for me. Duterte power. Always love support our president Duterte. Don't take any hangout against our president. He's doing all the best. People just respect and look after our country. Also, let's not be like other people from other places. We are much more better than that. Duterte power. Always love support our president Duterte. Do the right thing. We love you, and I love you, all my country and the Filipino people.